Hey friend, Chris Vandeviver here from WhyLogicProRules.com, the website that helps you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro 10. Today in our 30-day series, I want to show you how you can actually print or burn in specific effect chains into a region or just a specific section of a region completely independent of the plugins that you have on the channel strips in your mixer. And what I'm talking about is selection-based processing. Since the last couple of videos have been pretty dense, we're just going to hone in on one specific feature. Now, sometimes you might want an effect for just a specific moment. Let's say at the last snare hit in a song, and you want that reverb tail to just go on forever. Or maybe you want to add some delayed effects to a vocal, but only for a specific moment in time. With selection-based processing, you can do exactly this. You can preview different effect chains, and once you settle on the one that you like, you can just print it right into the region or create a completely new take. And it's pretty handy, so let's dig in. I have a riff here, it's pretty old. Let's take a quick listen and just look out for any moments where we can maybe spruce things up a bit with an effect at a specific moment. Check it out. Cool. So what I immediately pick up on is that swell of the cymbals. It feels like it's just not monumental enough for me, where I really want it to get loud and then just drop out. So let's see if we can spruce it up a bit. So let's select this region. We'll zoom in. And next up, we're going to go up to Functions and Selection-Based Processing. Now this will only be highlighted if you have a region or a marquee selection made. So let's select it. And what we are presented with is a dialog where we're able to create specific plug-in chains, and we can even compare an A chain versus a B chain to help us decide what effects we'd most like to use for a specific part, and then essentially we can just print it into the region itself or into a new take. Before we dig into plugins, I just want to show you that right down here there's a gear icon, and I believe by default these two preview options are enabled. So when enabled, preview will both solo and turn on the cycle range when we're previewing. So let's demonstrate this. Just going to hit the preview button, and let's watch what goes on here. As you saw, our track was soloed, and the cycle range was enabled for this region. If I make a marquee selection, do the same thing. So our selection-based processing also follows marquee selections as well. But sometimes you don't want a cycle range, and you want to hear your effects in the mix to see how it all gels together. In that case, you can just go to the gear and turn off these preview options. So now we have to turn off the cycle range manually and check it out. Make our selection, preview. Beautiful. Now let's pick out some plugins. I have an idea where I want to add a pretty long reverb tail, some distortion so this cymbal hit is kind of freaking out, and maybe some tremolo as well. So let's go here, go down to Reverb, Space Designer, and I'm going to test drive some longer reverb tails. So let's turn these back on, and let's preview this. I think I'm going to stay with the stage plate here. Okay, now let's pick out a distortion plugin. One of my favorite distortion plugins in Logic is actually the Distortion 2, which is more like for organ sounds, but it can really add a nice texture and get pretty gnarly. So I'm going to go straight for the Class AB Soft because it is a pretty aggressive distortion. And let's preview this. Cool, and now I'm thinking tremolo just to help it freak out a little more. So let's preview this. Okay, I think we have an effect chain, but let's create a second one just so we can compare. So I'm going to copy Space Designer, copy Distortion 2, But I think I'll pick something like the ring shifter just to see what this brings to the table. So let's select chain B here, preview. Okay, that's pretty interesting. Let's now compare the two in the mix. So I'm going to turn off the solo option here. Let's hear this. I think I'm going to stay with my decision for the tremolo plugin. So now we just have to make a couple more decisions before we apply this to the region. Underneath the plugin chains, we have options for split at marquee borders, create a new take, or add an effect tail. Split at marquee borders at the moment is not highlighted because we don't have a marquee selection. So let's just make one right now. Cool. So now we can split at the marquee border, which means that our processing, once printed into the region, will be split from the rest of the region. So let's do it right now. Let's apply this just so we can see it. And you can see it's been split right there, added with a crossfade. If we duplicate this region just to demonstrate, we still have the original sound there. It's just created a new region in an audio file. Cool. Let's now back it up here. So let's select this. And you can see that because I made some changes along the way, we can't undo. So let's kind of back it up here. All right, sweet. Let's undo. This is the area that I think you should be careful when it comes to selection-based processing. It's easy to kind of lose your undo steps. So, be firmly committed to selection-based processing, the window here, before you move on. Okay, now instead of split at marquee border, I want to create a new take. And what this will do is we'll create a take folder and we'll have the original region plus the new processing that we've printed to an audio file. Check it out. So as you can see, we open the take folder and now we have two different regions for this selection. And because split at marquee borders was not enabled, it created a take folder for the entire region. But if we back it up here, split at marquee border, hit apply. We now have a separate take folder with the selection we made, the original version and the affected version. But once again, if we duplicate this, bring it down, and expand it, we still have our original audio within this region. Lastly, we can also print in the effect tail. In this case, we have a reverb and the tail's pretty long. So you can imagine that the reverb goes well beyond the borders of this region. So if we apply this, let's remove this selection and hit apply. And as you can see, the reverb carries on for quite a bit longer than the actual region itself because of Space Designer here. But in this case, I want the symbol hit to stop. So let's back it up and let's remove this effect. And the last bit is gain changes. Now, as you can see, our effects are causing this region to boost in volume. And maybe that's okay. Maybe you don't want the gain to change at all. You've set the level as you want it. You just want to apply it. Then perfect. Just select no change. You're good to go. Or you can have loudness compensation. So Logic is going to try to match the loudness of the affected signal to what the original loudness was before the effects. Let's give this a try. Great, so it's quite a bit quieter. Or we can have Logic use overload protection. So just in case the signal is a bit too loud, it's going above 0 dB, and we don't want our new region to clip, in that case, you can just have overload protection on, and this will keep you safe from clipping. Or you can have Logic normalize the region, so set it to a maximum of 0 dB. Let's give this a try. And just like that, it is quite a bit louder now. So for me in this case, I want the region to stop dead in its tracks. I don't want any sort of reverb tail carrying on, so I'm not going to add the effect tail, but I will create a new take just to be safe, just so I have the original and the affected take. And I'm going to set the gain to loudness compensation, so hopefully it matches. And we hit apply. And just like that, we have our new selection-based processing region, and we don't have to take up a ton of space in our channel strip with all these effect plugins that we only want for just a specific moment in time. And let's check it out. Just play it real quick. Beautiful. Selection-based processing is a great tool for adding these little moments in your projects without having to create an entire channel strip or chopping things out and moving them around from different track to different track, trying to create essentially room or space to set up that effect chain. Instead, you just make the selection with the marquee or select a region, go up to Function, Selection-Based Processing, and from there you just load up your plugins, you try out different plugin chains, and then you decide you want a new take or split at marquee region or to include the tail of the plugins that you're loaded up. And then you just hit apply and you're good to go. So I hope that was helpful for you. If it was, as always, I highly recommend subscribing to the YouTube channel, Why Logic Pro Rules, or subscribing on the website itself, whylogicprorules.com. Every week I'm posting new videos, new emails, and posts to help you get the most you can out of Apple's Logic Pro 10. Thanks so much.